now that I know that the camera is on, hello and welcome to another episode of my Super Inaka vlog. This time I'm going to be talking about being a teacher, although an assistant teacher in Japan, and what the JET program has meant to me, specifically. Or not so specifically. We'll see how the talk goes. And I wanted to do this vlog because this past week has been graduation season in Japan. In Japan, you know, they graduate in March and late February as opposed to in May or June like we do in the United States because they're on the trimester system. And so this is when the third term ends. And we'll have about 2 weeks off and then the new term begins. Which is crazy, I know. Anyway, so I want to talk about, my feelings about these graduations this week and my feelings about being a JET on the program and being an assistant teacher here in Japan in general. Because I hope that it'll be valuable to you, and I hope that maybe someone can see this and know whether or not this is for them or not. Because it's not always easy. And so it's pretty personal stuff, some of it. And this year is my third year in Japan, so the students who were first-year students when I came are now graduating junior high school, and so I've had a pretty long relationship with them. And so that's why this year is particularly significant. Okay, so moving right ahead. When I came to Japan in the summer of 2010, so late July 2010, and I came to Izumo City in Shimane Prefecture. And that's not, and if you've watched my other videos, you know that's not where I am now, but that's where I started out, that's where I was placed. As to why I came, it's just a thing I always wanted to do. Once I heard what the JET program was, I absolutely wanted to do it. I wanted to become a JET, and even though I wasn't really sure that I wanted to teach for a long time, forever, and I still don't think that's going to be my ultimate path, I think that what clinched it for me was while I was on study abroad, I went to visit a friend of mine who was already here on the program, who had just joined the program that year. She'd been my roommate, and I went to her high school and spent a day with her there. And I thought to myself, this looks like so much fun, I just have to do this. So I really wanted to come back to Japan. I wanted to, experience more of Japan and what it had to offer, and I thought that, this was a great way to do it and maybe give back. So, I came here in the summer of 2010 to the scalding hot heat, all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and full of ideas and hope, and I'm not making this video to tell you that I was then crushed and all the hope was crushed out of me. That's not how it was. No. For the most part, it's been a really great experience for me. And so when I went to Izumo, I was working in junior high schools, and I was working in 3 junior high schools primarily. I had 1 primary junior high school with about 600 students, and then 2 smaller ones that I went to only once a week that had about 150 to 60 students each. And so that's where I was, and I was sort of I was not really in central Izumo, because central Izumo is quite big and stuff, and you can see in my older videos that that is not where I lived based on the scenery around my apartment area and the kombini. But yeah, so that's where I was, and I was there for 2 years, and I'm not gonna lie, I had some difficulties, but not with work. I always really liked my job. I mean, I'm not going to say that that was never difficult either, but I enjoyed what I did, and I enjoyed my students a lot, and I loved them a lot, And especially as time went on, I enjoyed the people I was teaching with too. So, you know, I had a really good placement as far as that went. Everyone was really good to me, and I had some great kids. And although there was one less than positive experience with a teacher in my first year, he left during my first year and a new teacher came in. And after that, I just really had nothing but wonderful experiences with my staff. Not, you know, again, it's not always an easy thing, but for me, it was always a good thing. So, so me saying all this, you have to wonder, why am I not there anymore? And I've talked about this in small amounts of detail, but I want to address it further. I am not there anymore largely due to what I feel like are my own personal failings in being honest with myself and really objectively evaluating my feelings, and a failing that I can trace right back to the moment I was accepted and placed on the program is there were things I wanted. There were things that I thought I would get, I could get, I don't know how to explain it, but there were things that I wanted, and with my placement and everything, a variety of things just did not turn out the way that I expected to or that I wanted them to. And as much as I wanted to be open and not, you know, let any preconceived notions that I had affect me, I did. Inside. You know, it wasn't that I always... How can I put this? It wasn't that everything was like that, but in my heart, there was a part of me that was always just a little bit bent out of shape, that I hadn't gotten those things that I wanted. And no matter how hard I tried, that affected me. I think the first 6 months I spent were really, really good. You know, I was learning about things. I was happy to be in Japan. I was happy at my schools. But as time went on, I really thought that part of me that was bent out of shape started to get to me. And, you know, winter comes and it's dark and it's cold and I started to have not such a great time, you know? And it was hard. And it just got harder. And though I made the decision to recontract there for a second year, when I'm really, really honest with myself, by the time that I made that decision to recontract for the second year, I had already decided not to recontract for the third in Izumo. And that was my biggest mistake. Deciding something like that soon. Based on an unhappy time. Because I had this part of me that was bent out of shape, and because I couldn't realize that, I couldn't change that, I'd gotten into this rut as far as a lot of things went. Not really work. Work actually got better and better from that point on. But I was in a rut, personally. And, yeah, that was the root of all of my mistakes, I really think. Is I let that rut take over. And so, you know, I did my second year, and, you know, I had some really good times the second year again, and especially, you know, as that year progressed, I was having a better and better time, and then I joined the Taiko group, and, you know, things were really looking up for me, honestly, and the Taiko group particularly made a huge difference in my life, but, like I said, by then it was already too late, and part of me knew that I was making a wrong choice even then, when I decided not to recontract. I was looking for a reason to change my mind. I wanted to change my mind, but I'm really stubborn. So, again, when things didn't go the way that I really wanted them to, instead of embracing what was, like I should have, and really, examining my feelings and examining them for what they were and for the positive upswing that I'd been on, it was just the largest part of that upswing had just started to happen when I made that decision, and it was just really too late. It wasn't enough. It wasn't enough that I could see objectively, I guess, right then. And I realized in, I guess, early May, late April, what an enormous mistake it was, but by then it was too late. I couldn't stay where I was. Even though I had become really, really happy where I was. Despite not getting all the things I wanted, I was finally living the life that I had wanted to live on the JET program. But the damage had already been done. See, and even now I get pretty upset thinking about this. I mean, it's better than it has been, but... And so I want to say that from the moment I realized that until the end of my contract that year were simultaneously the best, some of the best, and some of the worst months of my life. I was so sad, and I was so guilt-ridden and so full of remorse and regret, and yet I loved the life that I was living, and I loved my students, and I loved my job, and I had finally started to love everything about where I was. And it was sad. And I I prayed for a miracle. And actually, a miracle did happen, but it wasn't the miracle that I had wanted. The one that I had prayed for. But there was suddenly another position, a different position, open in Shimane, in the town where I am now, in the mountains. And it's a much smaller town, and it's about an hour and 15 minutes away from where I was before, maybe 20. And it was like a miracle. Not the one that I wanted. Not the miracle that would have allowed me to stay where I was. But a miracle nonetheless. And even though I had some doubts about it, I decided to take this position because I needed time. I needed time to make closure on my life in Ismail. It wasn't enough. All the things that I had done weren't enough, and I wasn't ready to let go of those things. And this was a way for me to not have to completely let them go right away. To kind of ease myself out and to continue some of those relationships and the things I was doing, like the taiko. And, even though it was difficult and even though it was far away, I could still do those things because, it's an hours plus a drive and it's long, but if it's for something you want, it's not undoable. So I took this job. And I am where I am now. And I promised myself that I was going to work on the mistakes and the choices and the manner of thinking that had led me to this happening. And I was going to work on myself this year. And I've done that. And I talked about that in the last vlog. I've made some changes, or I've tried to make some changes, and I think I've made some changes anyway. So I don't think that I'll ever do that again. Not really listen to what deep down my heart is trying to tell me. Because it was trying to tell me when I was making that decision. I wanted a reason to change my mind. And when that perfect prepackaged reason did not come, I didn't listen to that. I didn't listen to you. Really want to change. You want to change your mind. You want to have a reason to change your mind that means something. And any number of times after that where it might not have been too late, when I felt like I didn't want to go. But I shoved that aside in my stubbornness and I say, you've decided to do this, you've decided to, move to the city, and that's what you're going to do. And I was wrong.